Mekhi Becton, a.k.a. the Big Ticket, a.k.a. Highway 77. Well, he hasn't played since week 1 of this season. How worried are you about Mekhi Becton? Jets! All right, welcome to Jets Talk. My name is Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, I want to talk about Mekhi Becton because we haven't heard anything really substantial. It's been a lot of he said, she said over the course of the last few weeks, and I want to get your thoughts on how worried you are about Mekhi Becton and how high you would prioritize offensive line this offseason. So before we get into this, I want to just sort of bring up some of the comments that we've heard about Mekhi Becton the last month or so. So Robert Saleh said there was no bad surgery, there was no bad rehab process, there's no ill intent on his part. It's not healing the way the speed at which we were anticipating isn't exactly happening. So it wasn't anything malicious from anyone's side. It's just unfortunate, but confident we'll get him back and ready to roll, hopefully next week, but worst case scenario, 2022. Now that was at the end of December. Clearly, Mekhi Becton wound up not playing any of the games outside of the first half of week 1. And then we hear this from Mike Garafolo.
Here's my understanding, and speaking to sources familiar with what happened here. He was having issues. Obviously, the knee did not come along as quickly as they had hoped. And then what happened was, because he wasn't able to do the kind of things that he needed to do to get into rehab and get back in shape, he put on weight. Weight has been an issue with Becton. We knew that coming into the draft. We knew that coming into his NFL career. So this is something where he's going to have to continue to rehab that knee. He's going to have to get back in shape. The Jets are hopeful that he will be back in shape, ready to go physically and mentally for the start of OTAs, but we'll see how that goes.
So it would appear there's possibly two different stories here, and it's something that I'm not too sure on which way this is going to go. Is he having some weight issues, or is he dealing with some sort of weird setback health-wise? I think it's a little bit of a combination of the both, and I want to go over some of Mekhi Becton's history just to kind of give you some context on where he came from and where he sort of stands now. So he's 6'7", 364 pounds. He's going into year 3 of his contract. He wound up failing a test, possibly due to marijuana at the combine. I don't know if that was actually released, but I know he failed some type of drug test at the combine. He was in great shape heading into the combine, had one of the highest RAS scores, R-A-S, relative athletic scores. He was the second heaviest of the 4,500 participants over the course of the last 15 years, but ran faster than anyone weighing over 350 pounds. So incredibly elite athletic specimen. He tapped out a few times in his rookie season due to nagging injuries. He had plantar fasciitis in last offseason, which prevented him from working out. Got roasted in training camp by Carl Lawson. Looked good in the preseason, but then got injured week 1 when Greg Van Roten rolled up on the backside of his leg, giving him a knee injury that was supposed to put him out 4 to 6 weeks. Now, we all know that 4 to 6 weeks eventually turned into like 3-4 months. The most we got to see out of Mekhi Becton was a little bit of him stretching on the sidelines. Maybe we thought he was going to get back out and see the field, but that never wound up being the case. So I have a few questions. I guess first off, was there any sort of consideration of maybe holding off Becton because Fant was playing so well? I think if you're concerned about possibly re-injuring him a little bit more, err on the side of caution, keep him out. I think that's totally fine, and you don't have to disrupt the apple cart or whatever that saying is. The other side of things is the nutritional side of things, and that's a little concerning because this is now, if you haven't seen, Mekhi Becton has hired his third nutritionalist in the last, 4 years. 2018, he worked with Emily Artner at Louisville, which got him prepared to have a really elite 2019 campaign that wound up making him an elite prospect in the 2020 draft. And then Duke Manyweather's nutritionalist heading into the combine got him in really good shape, like I said, really high RAS scores. And then Ann Claiborne is his new nutritionalist that we just found out about relatively recently. Apparently he's been seeing either her or a nutritionalist since probably about October or so, at least from what I've heard. Now, this is all well and good. I'm good with him being on a nutritional plan. I don't understand why this was not a constant, steady thing anyway. I feel like when you have someone who's 360 plus pounds, whose mom owns a catering business, whose dad is clearly benefiting from said catering business, And he's been struggling with weight. There's issues with weight. You have to be able to monitor this throughout the entirety of his career. Maybe the nutritionalist shouldn't wind up posting a photo with Mekhi Becton with a takeout container. Hopefully there's a bunch of veggies and greens in there and not like something bad like Chinese food or fast food or something. I would imagine not. He's probably okay there. Now, why is this such a big deal? First and foremost, we're talking, Mekhi Becton going into the third year of his career. After this third season, you have to decide, just like Sam Darnold, if you're going to pick up his fifth-year option, which is going to be a lot of money. If the Jets are not confident in him, they will not pick up that option. If they think he's a starter, he's going to be the long-term answer, they will pick up that option. So a lot is kind of hanging in the balance this upcoming season. Not to mention George Fant is going into the last year of his contract, and Connor McGovern at the center position is going into the final year of his contract. So the offensive line has this potential to really be up in the air, especially with Morgan Moses as a free agent right now. So I want to take a look back and look at Mekhi Becton and see how he did snap percentage-wise in terms of health. Because I heard he had nagging injuries and everything, and I couldn't really get a full idea of how many snaps he played in his first year. So 2020, he was 70% of the snaps he was in for. This past year was only 4%. Again, I'm probably not going to factor that in too much because of the weird nature of this particular injury. So overall, his time with the Jets, he's only been on the field 35% of the time. Before that, in Louisville, he only missed one game due to an ankle injury. So it's not like this has been like a long injury-riddled career for Mekhi Becton. To put these numbers in perspective, our lowest offensive lineman over the course of the last 2 years in terms of snap count, George Fant, 83%. Elijah Vera Tucker, in his 1 year with the Jets, played 95% of the snaps. Connor McGovern played in 94% of the snaps. Right guard was a little tricky. I kind of put LDT and Greg Van Roten kind of in the same mix. They were basically healthy the entire time. But I couldn't get full accurate numbers because LDT was on the Chiefs and the snap counts got a little wacky. Morgan Moses played in 94% of the snaps this year and hasn't missed a game since 2015. So reliability and health for offensive linemen is so paramount. We always say availability is the best ability, but especially on the offensive line. When you have guys that are working together, 5 independent players working in a unit to move the pocket, to create space for running backs, for tight ends, for wide receivers to flourish, you kind of need to have someone who's available, and Mekhi Becton just kind of really hasn't had that yet. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, I have hope that Mekhi Becton can be the best tackle in the league, but I also have to try and prepare for the worst case scenario. And what is the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario for me is going into this draft not addressing the interior part of our offensive line with some type of flexible player. I know a lot of content creators have us taking Evan Neal or Icky out of NC State. Those are both tackles that can play the guard position at a very high level. They're both considered top 10 picks. And it provides the Jets an extra level of flexibility when it comes to Mekhi Becton. But if you don't take one of those players, the worst case situation that you're talking about, you possibly lose Connor McGovern and George Fant at the end of the 2022 campaign. And if Mekhi Becton has another year where you're not quite sure what you're getting out of him and you're not 100% confident going into 2023, now you're maybe not picking up his fifth-year option. You now need to look for another tackle, or you're paying George Fant a pretty sizable contract to come back. And then you're possibly losing Connor McGovern, and you still haven't kind of figured out your guard position. So for me, when I'm looking at this, I'm taking the top level guard or tackle versatility player that I can get at the top part of this draft because it allows me the flexibility to have flexibility with Mekhi Becton. Because then there's a situation where, hey, maybe you don't extend him on his fifth-year option and you want to give him an extra year. No problem with that. You can franchise tag him after that, or you can possibly think of doing something beyond that. But I think it gives you that flexibility that the Jets haven't really had an opportunity to take advantage of. And it's frustrating as all hell because it's definitely something that I definitely did not think was going to be a need coming into this season. If you had asked me in August if I would be drafting offensive line or wide receiver with either of our top 2 first-round picks or top 2 second-round picks, I'd say no, absolutely not. There's no way I'm wasting a pick on a receiver or a lineman, or a tackle, rather. Well, man, a lot has changed in just 5-6 months' time. So guys, let me know your thoughts on Mekhi Becton. How worried are you about him? Are you concerned that he's going to be able to stay on the field? Do you think he's our left tackle of the future? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets.